Hey guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at another brushed microquad. It's the Eachine QX95. Let's get everything out of the box, take a look what's inside. Alright, get a manual. Looks like you got a charging cable, the same one that comes with the QX90. Got some spare props and a prop remover. This is different. They are including a USB charger here, and you get a micro C connector on this. If you just want to charge one battery, you can. Got a couple of spare motors here, and we can tell that these motors are different because the stem is a lot shorter than what was on the QX90. Got some Velcro. Got a couple of batteries down here. These are probably the same ones that were on the QX90. It's a 600 milliamp hour with the micro Lucy connector, and there's no C rating on these. So here's a look at the quad itself. Got a rubber band there. We got some LEDs in the back here. These look like the same ones on the QX90, these Hubsan style props, and yeah, these are definitely sitting closer to the can. So the stems are shorter, and this is actually better because if you crash and there's pressure put on the stem here, the bottom of the can isn't going to pop off and destroy your motor. As you know from my QX90 videos, that's what happened. It crashed and like within 15 seconds, and the motors, 3 of the 4 motors were destroyed because the stems are too long. The LED here is just hanging out. It's not attached. And probably because they don't want to be blocking the USB port there. It's not a good location for these LEDs. Maybe I'll stick them on the bottom here. Think about that. Got a micro Lucy connector, and it's kind of buried in there. Let's see. Maybe it's in there by design, so that you have the battery on the bottom and you connect it here on the side, perhaps. So take a look at that a little bit later. The board that's in here is different from the other F3 brushed micros that I have. It's a lot thinner, and I'm gonna take the top off here so you guys can see it. Okay, so here is a look at the board, and I can tell it's definitely thinner. I'm gonna go get a. Okay, so here's one of the F3 brushed boards, and you can see here that it's definitely a lot wider than the board that's in this guy. This is super skinny. You can see here that there's no way that this would fit in here. So they definitely have advanced their design in the boards. And also the reason this board is different, it has a built-in receiver. This is has a built-in Flysky receiver. I think that's the part here in the front, so they've even shrunk this down a little bit more and have all the same basic functionality. It even includes these little connectors here for the motor wires that a lot of the QX90, a lot of other quads don't include those, so it's kind of nice that you can just easily swap out a burned out motor with just plugging it in. And it looks like it's just stuck on the bottom with some sticky foam there. The camera looks like it's the same camera that comes on the QX90. It's got the same dip switches in the back, and it looks like it's directly connected to battery voltage. Let me just double check that. Is that true? Yeah. So that's connected right back there. And yeah, it definitely looks like the same camera. And it looks like it's just held on here with some rubber bands over there on each side, with a little bit of sticky foam tape on each side there. The motors are held in with the grommets, as same as on the QX90, and the frame's a little bit flexible. It's not terrible. It's actually better than I thought it would be with this much carbon cut out here in the arms. It's quite a bit of space here, but I think that they did that to allow more airflow through the this section of the propeller, because if you have a really thick arm that and it's blocking the thrust from these little tiny propellers, you lose a lot of power. So they're going to sacrifice a little bit of durability for a little bit more power. Okay, let's see how much this thing weighs. about 38 grams, so a little bit lighter than I expected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll plug this into the computer and let's see how this is configured. I think it comes with CleanFlight, and then I'll go ahead and flash it to Betaflight. Okay, so before we connect this to CleanFlight to take a look at the configurations settings, you have to bind the onboard receiver to your transmitter, and in order to do that, there's a couple of pins that you have to short here, and there it says bind right there. So I used a paperclip to short that, and you have to short that while you plug in your battery, and also while your transmitter is in receiver bind mode. So it's a little tricky to do. You might need another person to help you to do that. Also, the instructions in the manual also explain how to do this as well. The instructions for the other receivers like the Flysky and the Spectrum are also included in the manual, so if you guys want to check that out. Now the USB port's in a pretty bad location on this quad. It's hard to get to, and there's also this LED bar that's supposed to go in the back here. I actually disconnected it for now, and it requires you to remove this sticky foam and attach it to the standoffs, which will permanently block the USB ports. So I'm going to actually install the LEDs later after I do all the tuning. And I have this sort of little adapter, micro to mini, for accessing the USB port because I'm not able to access it with my normal USB cable. So I have this little adapter here to get access to that so that I can plug it into CleanFlight. So the onboard receiver that's on this flight controller is a Flysky compatible receiver, but it doesn't work with the second generation protocol, the 2A protocol. It only works with the first generation protocol. So you won't be able to use it with the Turnigy Evolution or the i6S, anything that only works with the second generation protocol. So you're gonna have to use the older transmitter. This is actually the FSi6X, which is the next generation of the FSi6, and this radio, as well as this predecessor, can do both the first generation and second generation protocol. I'm gonna have a separate review on this radio if you guys are interested. I don't have the first gen of this radio. I just got the second gen, so I'll have another video. I'll put a card up here in the corner when I get that video done and edited, so if you want to check that out, I'll have one for that. But I'm going to show you, at least for the QX95, what you need to do to get this into receiver bind mode and settings need to change. Okay, in order to do the bind to the transmitter, you first set the transmitter into bind mode by holding down the bind button and then powering on the radio. And it'll show you that's in RX binding mode. And then you go through that procedure I mentioned earlier, where you plug in the power while shorting the bind pins, and then the receiver will be going to bind mode, and then it'll bind. Now it doesn't actually give you an indication it's actually bound. You'll actually see a solid green light on the board to say it's bound, and then you can then go ahead and power it off, and then power it on into normal mode, because the first gen protocol doesn't have any telemetry, doesn't actually know that it's actually connected. Okay, so once you've got the receiver bound, there's a few more things you got to do to get this set up. So maybe here at this main menu, to get to the system settings, you press and hold this button here on the right, upper right here. You get this menu, select system. You want to go down to receiver setup, select that, and then you want to change your set your failsafe here first. So go down here, select failsafe, and I am going to select channel 5, which is going to be the first aux channel. I'm going to set that to, let's select here, and yeah. So I'm setting this switch for arming and disarming, and the up position is disarmed and the down position is armed. So I'm going to have it set like that, and then set that. Oh, hold on. Go in here. Turn it on. And then that's the PWM value that's going to be sent to that channel, for channel 5, which is the arm and disarm channel, and it's going to disarm the copter on failsafe. And then you want to then go to the output mode here, and you want to select PPM for your output mode. If it's on PWM, then it won't work. And then finally, you want to go up to RF standard, and then say yes. You want to change it from the 2A to the first gen, which is the only one that the QX95 will speak. There you go, then it's set. So basically you press and hold the cancel button to set it. You hear that beep confirming that's been set. And then everything should be bound, and the transmitter can now be seen in the receiver tab in CleanFlight. So we'll go ahead and connect to the computer now. Okay, I'll go ahead and connect the QX95 to the computer. There we go, and I'll connect to it. And let's take a look and make sure the receiver is still bound. And it is. Let's see, that's rolls working the correct direction, pitch is the correct direction, yaw is the correct direction, and so is throttle. However, it appears the channels are not centered and the endpoints are incorrect. So we got a max endpoint of 2011 and a min of 1020. So we got to adjust those using the sub trim and the endpoints setting in the radio. Okay, so to make those to adjust our endpoints and our centering, we'll go into our setup menu and go to sub trim first. And channel 1 is going to be the roll, so we'll bring that down. And then press and hold cancel to set all these, and hit then the up button here to go to the next one. So to the next one. That's too much. 1500, and 3 is throttle. So the bottom should be at 1000. Okay. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see what the midpoint looks like. That looks pretty close. Okay, we'll go to the next one, which is going to be the yaw. Bring that down. Okay, and then we just press and hold cancel to set these. We'll exit out. Okay, so now let's check our endpoints. So that's a little bit low, and on the roll that's a little bit should be a little bit lower. So go back to endpoints here and adjust those. So this is the the low end point for the roll, so I think we need to increase that. Let's see here. I'll move the stick over. Yeah. And so it's okay. That looks pretty good. 1% change there. How do you get to the next one? Okay, that's interesting. So in order to get to the other side here, you have to actually move the stick to above that level, and then it'll let you change those values. So I'm low on that one, and that's good. And go to yaw. Gotta increase that. There we go. And that looks good. So our throttle is good. Our roll is good. So is our pitch and our yaw. Okay, so we're all set. So press and hold the cancel button to save. Let's just double check that. Okay, so they're all there. Okay, so then now let's check that the modes are working correctly. So it looks like they have this somewhat pre-configured in CleanFlight. On aux1 you have the arm as it's set to disarm right now, and I just switched it to the arming with my switch here. And they also have it's set for angle mode as well. I may change this up. I think I'm going to fly this with CleanFlight as it is out of the box, just in case anyone just wants to fly it as is. They can do so, and then I'll do a separate video later on Betaflight setup. Okay, so let's double check and make sure failsafe is working correctly. Let's change this to 5 and drop. Reboot. Let's check to see if failsafe works. I'm going to turn the radio off. And the little light here there's a little green light here is turned off. Turn the radio back on, and there we go. Got the green light again. Okay. Arm it. Give a little bit of throttle and turn the radio off. Okay, that's not working. Okay, so failsafe didn't work there, so I'm going to change the arming channel to set, and I'm going to change that to 1000. And hopefully that'll work. Let's give it another try. Okay, so I'm not able to figure out how to get the failsafe to work properly on this built-in Flysky receiver. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong. These things that I tried should have worked, but apparently I'm missing something. So I'll look into that and make a future video if I can figure it out. If you do get this with the Flysky receiver, I would urge caution and not fly too far away, and in case you lose control signal. Anyway, I'm going to go. Let's look at the PID tuning tab here, and it does come with some built-in PIDs that aren't default, and I think that these could probably be pretty might be worth raising a little bit, but I'm going to try to fly just stock the way it is. I can see that they raised the yaw peak quite a bit, which is pretty high for CleanFlight. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a fly. Show you guys a flight demo in clean flight on the stock settings, and then I'll do a beta flight flashing video in a future video. Well, I'm here at the park, and I'm gonna do a little line of sight test for the QX95, and just gonna do a little just flying around line of sight here, and it looks like I've got a complete dud here in terms of the product. You'll see here in a little bit after I start flying around, it'll just basically disarm and just fall out of the sky for no reason at all. It looks like it's a fail-safe. I don't know why it would fail-safe literally 5 feet from the transmitter. And so I'm kind of banging my head against the wall here. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I set up it again, disarm, rearm, and then take off again. And then it just flies for maybe 15 seconds and just falls out of the sky. And I have no idea why it's doing this, because on the bench when I was testing failsafe, the motors didn't stop. So why would the motor stop now if there's a failsafe event? So I'm not exactly sure what is going on here. I did try this again after I left the park at home with, I thought maybe the battery was going to try a different battery. Same thing happened. The first flight would be okay, and then it would be like maybe like, I don't know, it was a little longer, like maybe 30 seconds. And after that, each subsequent flight would be like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it would just fall out of the sky. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on here. I've seen other reviews on the QX95 with the Flysky receiver, and those seem to be flying just fine. Unfortunately, with the Flysky setup I've got right now, it's a built-in receiver, so I can't switch the receiver, so I won't be able to show you any FPV video, because I know that as soon as I fly it away, 30 seconds it'll just crash anyway. So yeah, so sorry guys, I can't recommend buying the Flysky version. Maybe the Flysky version is better, I don't know. I'm going to talk to the guys at Banggood and see if they can send me the Flysky version. I could try that out instead. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below what this could be. I'm a little bit baffled, and yeah, if you know, please leave me a comment. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this little review, and maybe it'll help you out in determining if you want to get the other version. I don't think the Flysky version is probably the one to get, although it might be that the particular board I have is just defective. I don't know. I'll have to find out. So, hope you liked the video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.